Hello, welcome to the channel and thanks for joining me. We're going to take a look at this Entex Stargate game from 1982 today. Now this video is only going to be a quick one, I think. It's actually part 6 of a 7-part series. And what I've done is got a collection of vintage VFD games from the early 80s, such as this. And I got them in a bundle from eBay. And in the original video, I did an appraisal and test of all of the functionality of the different games. And since then, I've worked on Munchman, Astro Wars, Firefox, Bank Shot, and this Stargate is the last one in the series. It doesn't need much doing, to be honest. It kind of works, but if you look back to the original appraisal, you'll know that the switches aren't working very well. It's a bit easy come, easy go on the display. There's some crackling on the on-off switch and stuff like that. So this one just needs a general deep clean. Take it apart, give it a quick service, clean the contacts, all that kind of stuff. And in the final part of the series, we'll have a look at all of them compared to how we received them and see if it was worth the effort. Anyway, enough chatting. Let's get on with this and give it a good clean inside and we'll go from there. And so here's the inside then. Right, it's fairly well tied because this little ribbon cable attaching the board to the little power section here is a little bit on the tight side. That being said, the Entex games are quite advanced really compared to the grandstand games really, I guess, of the time. There's a board here which takes obviously the battery connections that you can see from the little compartment there. And we've also though got a proper speaker in this, so you've got a little pancake speaker as opposed to the little piezo speakers that Firefox and Astro Wars and the like would have had. Also you've got a headphone socket as well for private listening. So again, that's one thing the grandstand games didn't have, and you couldn't turn the music or sound off or anything like that, whereas with this one you can. You've also got a pitch wheel here, variable resistor for adjusting the speed at which the screen scrolls, which is pretty cool. Your display board up here, and basically the switch panel is behind this one. So I'm going to get this bit open here, give the switches a decent clean, and that should be all we need to do on the inside. By and large, it's very nice. There's no battery corrosion, there's no dust or cracked parts or anything like that. So yeah, really pleased with it so far. So that's the control panel unscrewed. I've also loosened off the board as well for the switches because A, we need to clean them, and B, we need to really give ourselves a little bit more movement there, look, so that we can get to the contacts proper to give them a clean. Now the switches do have little caps on them, little covers, which does stop some of the dust and dirt getting in. But to be honest with you, it hasn't done a brilliant job over the years. Well, to be fair, it has been a thick end of 40 years. So I'm just going to give this a bit of a clean now. Also, we've got the carbon contacts here. So I'll show you in a sec what they do, just in case you're not aware. I'm just going to clean the outside first. Really see the colour change actually. Right, okay, so what would happen is we've got contacts underneath these pads here, and I'll just put a reference dot on the side, although to be fair there is a screw hole there anyway. But all we do is peel this away. And in here are a series of contacts, and you've got effectively your positive and negative. They're kind of intertwined like a little maze, and there's carbon applied to the back of the pads. That's why it looks black there, like a graphite paint as it were. And when you press the button down, it presses that electrically conductive pad against the little maze on there, thus shorting, if you like, the positive and negative, and activating that particular path. That could be for in any game, up, down, left, right, fire, you know, hyperspace, whatever it might be. And that's how they work. But over years, these little contacts can get a little bit corroded, and you can get sort of dirt and grime and general sort of wear on these pads. So we're just going to give them a clean, and that should restore that function nicely. Also, I can get in here and clean these function switches as well, but it'll be alcohol really for the pads, and then some sort of switch cleaner or alcohol in there, and a little bit of lubrication as well, just to clean these switches up, and we'll be in business, I think. And there's still plenty of carbon on there as well, so we should get some really nice contacts. Sometimes you can find over the years that it's flaked off, and you need to apply some fresh graphite or similar. Incidentally, the locating plugs are actually on this side. On a lot of the grandstand games, you'd find that the engagement parts are on the circuit board. On here, they're just on the back of the controls, which you may or may not see now behind there. But basically, this thing, just this little rubber pad, this mat, locks back onto some pegs, ensures it's in the perfect location for later. And I'm just putting some isopropyl alcohol down these switches now. Just want to kind of clean them up a little bit really. Nothing too aggressive. They did kind of work, they were just a little bit noisy and intermittent. And a little bit of lubrication on there as well. And then while I'm here, I'd rather like to do these contacts as well. So we'll just pop this little plate off. And you can see the same again now with these little pads. Just cleaning the outside first. Just makes it look nicer, but also it stops any detritus from getting in afterwards as well. And again, these carbon pads look nice and clean, no real problems with those at all. So we'll pop that back in. And this time we've got a little retaining plate that snaps in, so just be careful to put that in properly, which it appears to be. Yep, it's snapped in nicely there, so that's going to be okay for us. Not forgetting our little plastic tips, of course, that we've just cleaned. So it's all screwed back together, and I've just cleaned the little variable resistor as well on there. Time to put it back together, see if it's made any improvement to it. Rightio, it's screwed back together, so let's see if it works, shall we? 4 C cells, yep, 4 C cells, just like all the other games of its time really. I'm going to turn the light off just so as we can see what's what. And does it come on? Yes, it does. Right, here we go then. Yep, that works. And over to mute. Always get a bit of interference on this game anyway. You always get a little bit of noise come through even on the mute, but you can see it's working. So back across to, yep, there's the sound. The switch is a lot cleaner now. We've got good power coming through. Give you a better look in a bit, but I just wanted to make sure it was working first, and we have certainly improved the clarity of the screen there and the quietness. Now, you will have noticed that we haven't got a battery cover for this. Now, I couldn't get one, in actual fact. Some of the other items from the bundle didn't have battery covers, and for the grandstand games it's actually fairly easy to get hold of them, either original old ones off broken or donor units, or even you can get sort of new old stock replacement parts. Now, not so much for this one, it's a much rarer unit. You can't really replace these very readily, so I did consider sort of making one out of a battery cover from something else, but that's a project in its own right, really, and it wasn't really the point of the exercise of this. This was just to see if we can clean it up and get it running a bit better. So what it did come with, though, is an adapter. Well, I say when it came with an adapter, the bundle came with an adapter. I don't even know if this works at all yet, so we'll give that a go in a little while. But first thing I wanted to do was clean this up now that we know it works. But there's some rather unsightly marks on the back. Now, quite often, they're quite common with games of this vintage, and people tend to think they're careless soldering iron marks and stuff like that. But what it generally is the power cable. As I say, this wasn't the actual cable for the unit, as far as I know. But they were stored, and over the years, the plastic actually migrates and effectively kind of eats the other part of the plastic, and you'll find that things fuse together and look like melt lines, and it's not molten plastic at all. It's just the plastic has kind of, as I say, started to eat itself, and you can see in there it's pretty bad on this. A, they're rather deep, and B, there's a lot of them. So yeah, I'd rather like to get rid of them if I can. So they're certainly not going to polish out. Listen to this. I mean, that is bad. You're just never going to polish them out. So I'm going to go for it. As this is textured on the back here, but smooth on this part, I'm actually just going to go ahead and sand this through. Sand it back a little bit. Might not go all the way through because these are rather deep, but we should be able to make it look a lot better than it is. And by the time it's all polished up, deep cleaned, and then vinyl cleaned over the top, it should sort of find its way back in and look half decent. And then we can address how we're going to power this. Obviously it does work off batteries, you know, a bit of the old duct tape or whatever you like to keep the batteries in place will always work, won't it? That's an old perennial way to get around it. But I've got a feeling we should be able to, you know, either resurrect this particular unit or find another one that can get it working off the mains. So right, let's get some sandpaper. So I've got a bunch of papers here, all different grades, so have a bit of fun I think with this now. Just going to go through, start cutting through with quite a heavy grit and work my way through to some finer ones. You know the score, so I won't bore you with that. Hopefully next time I see you, might not be perfect, but it should be a little bit better. I'll also give it a deep clean as well, get rid of all this dust and dirt and grime, polish the screen, all that kind of stuff. Right, see you soon. I will just show you quickly this intermediate phase. I'm just passing over with some fairly heavy grit at the moment, and you can see that it's already starting to look better. Also, even though there aren't any scratches on this side, I'm going to sand through that as well, just so that the finish is even. Otherwise we're going to get a really heavily polished spot in one place and it'll look a bit odd. So best that this whole panel looks the same. Okay, so you can see it's had a nice deep clean now, a polish and a plastic treatment as well. Looks absolutely gorgeous now, super clean, really nice. It actually had paint splashes as well underneath all that dust, so I've managed to get those out, which is a bonus. You can see how lovely it's all cleaned up, can't you now? And yep, as for that panel, it was this one here that I'm reflecting my hand in just now. So I've gone through, I think it was 6 different grades of sandpaper, and then some cutting compound as well, and then some plastic dressing over the top of that. So I think you'll agree that compared to what that was like before, that is massively better now. Absolutely much improved. So that's all done. All we need to do now is get this power sorted. And this is where I'd normally wrap up the video, I think. We've given it a deep clean and a polish. We've sorted out a little bit of cosmetic work as well, and given the internal switches and controls a bit of a service as well to get them working perfectly again. So that would normally have been it, but of course with this consignment that we've been working on, all of the others are not only cosmetically cleaned up and functionally working really well, they've got their battery covers or some form of permanent power, and of course this one is still missing its battery cover. Now yes, you can run it off batteries easy enough, you know, we can put a bit of tape across there like we always used to do when we lost our battery covers, but it might be too good to be true. But if you remember, this consignment actually came with a multi-voltage adapter with also a multi-ended plug on there as well. And this one is, well, variable actually, from 12 volts down to 3. So we'll set it to the 6 volts that we require. Also, it's a reversible polarity and we want positive centre pin. So incidentally, with this we've got the various sort of barrel plugs, a 3.5mm jack and a 2.5mm. It's actually the tiny little 2.5mm mono jack that we need for our power. So let's see if it works. I'm not even going to test it for voltage. I'm just going to plug this in and see if it works or not. No, actually that would be a massive mistake because they can drift over time and I don't want to overvolt it or anything like that. Plus also I do want to check the polarity for myself. So where are we at? There we go. So we're looking for 6 volts positive pin. And we're getting nothing. Actually. Nothing at all. Nada. Okay, let me just fiddle with the voltage switch a minute. Yeah, there's nothing. We got nothing coming out of this at all. Ah, that's a shame. Okay. Right, well let's just see if this adapter is salvageable or not. Now all my power is hardwired here and slightly out of frame, so I've just got this really old extension lead here. I'm going to plug this in. Voltage DC. Yeah, nothing there. So it should be on now. And that's giving us, or supposedly, 12 volts at that end. Yeah, nothing. So, just going to remove the actual cable here and just probe the DC output. Yeah, nothing coming out of there. A fraction of a volt. Okie dokie. So the adapter itself has gone. There'll be some capacitors in here which have probably gone, to be fair. In fact, just for a bit of fun, we'll see what sort of condition this is inside. To be honest with you, it's not really worth fixing, I don't think. Right, let's have a look. Yeah. Looks like it's got pretty hot. Looks like it's got toasted at some point anyways. There's your cap there. Fuse, does the fuse? Yeah, that's all right. Right, let's put an ESR meter on this a minute. Well, it's not reading too bad, to be honest. Got some transistors in there that might have gone as well. Transistors are okay. Radio. Yeah, there's probably an issue then with the actual continuity of the windings or something like that. Oh, hang on. Yeah, unless we've got broken traces, that actual output is pretty shonky as well, to be fair. So it's probably broken traces there. Well, we might repair that if this works as well. So I'm just going to try and make sure that the actual cable is okay. And to do that, I'm just going to check for continuity. And at this end, no, yes, no, maybe. I see. I think it's at this end. Yeah, there's nothing there. Right, try that again. Yeah, there's no... Come on. Continuity is very hit, miss and maybe. I think it's actually gone on the junction inside there, which is very common on a lot of these games. So I think actually, see, we're okay on there with continuity, and then we're to switch round. Yeah, it's there, look. Try and get it in place. There it is. So that's okay there, and not there. So not only does this look like it's well, look at the state of it. That transformer's proper got hot at some point. The cap seems okay, but might need replacing. We've got dry joints or broken joints just there from the wear of the input output, a bit like the headphone socket would be on a Walkman or something. So that was basically had it anyways, and now we've got an internal failure somewhere in that molded plastic that we can't fix anyway. So I'm not going to bother. There's no point trying to fix that. That's just, well, it's something that might look pretty on display alongside a game, but certainly no good to power it. So that's a bit rubbish. A backup plan could be this one. I've got a multi-voltage set to 6 volts with a 2.5mm mini jack with a, let me see, positive tip definitely. So we'll plug that into there and just check the voltage a second. Should be 6 volts on the tip, if I can get that into frame for you, just there. Should be positive there, 6 volts. Obviously reverse the polarity that way will give us -6. Yeah, that's fine. So this one should work, all other things being equal, of course. And sorry you couldn't see that gameplay then, but yeah, it is working. Just take my word for it. Good. Okay, turn it off for a second. We'll have a proper look at it when it's properly fixed in a bit. So we do have then one that works, so we know that the power supply works to it. The only thing is, this is quite a useful little bit of kit really, because it is a multi-voltage and could be useful for other things. I don't have many of these 2.5mm jacks actually, to be fair. The ones I do have tend to be the old multi-cross ones, and in any event, I think part of the problem with these is that people plug these in, you know, to the units that aren't really designed for a crossway one. So that happens is, as you plug it in, it doesn't really reach, to be honest. You have to sort of force it almost all the way in, and you know, that's how you get all this stress and strain on the cable and all that stuff. So it does need an inline proper jack like that, to be fair. But I do use this one now and again, as I say, because it is multi-voltage. So that's an option. But I also have, and I sell these as well, so these are nice little units, to be fair. They do work nicely on 6 volt, but they are 6 volt negative, and they've also got the wrong end on as well. Incidentally, they've got a barrel plug on there. There you go. But they've got a nice thick cable to them, and there's like a 6-foot lead on these, so they'll be, you know, you'll be able to plug this in and use your, play the game any way you like pretty much. So I think what I'll do is I'll order up some 2.5mm mono jack plugs, cut these off, then I can reverse the polarity. As I say, they are just manufactured in negative tip, but all we've got to do is wire it back to front to get the positive tip. Perfectly safe. Just depends then on which part is actually carrying the positive versus the negative side. So we'll put a little mono jack on there. Now, like I say, I don't have any of those to hand, not in a 2.5mm. I've got the 3.5mm ones that you use, for example, on headphone sockets and stuff like that. But unfortunately, as I say, that one there is the 3.5mm. We need, I'll try and get this into frame for you, I don't know if it'll focus, but basically we need the 2.5mm, which is a bit smaller. So I'm going to order up some of those, and then all we'll do is we'll chop that off, rewire a decent end on that, and we should be good to go. So I'll see you in a couple of days once those bits have come, and we'll go from there. And it is a few days later now, so a very quick recap then. Original transformer that came with the games bundle is totally kaput, as is the cable, so that's no good. We've then got one that we know is working, that we use to test the game from the input side, so we know that works, but I'd rather like to keep this one because I use it for other things. And that leaves us with the third option, which is the correct voltage, incorrect polarity and incorrect end. I had the 3.5mm jacks that I needed for headphones and stuff like that, but they're too big. We need, also they are stereo, and all we need is a mono 2.5mm tip and sleeve arrangement there for the plugs. So I've got some of them in. So all we need to do now is lop the end off of this, fit one of these, and we'll be in business. So there's the old connector off. I've kept a couple of inches of cable on there because I might want to actually incorporate this into something else as well, and if we cut it too close it's no good for anything, so we can discard it for now. That leaves us with the cable, so I'm going to trim this back and solder the new end on. And just a quick note here, you'll see we've got the copper sheath, that's the negative part, and obviously the red part is the positive. So all we need to do now is make sure we connect the tip to the red one and the sheath to the actual housing of the jack, and that way we've got the correct polarity for the game. So before we actually test it on the game, you ought to make sure it works. So I've just dragged my crusty old extension lead in there, just so as we can see what's going on in frame, he says. Right, so we're looking for 6 volts now, like 5.7 in fact I think it is, and we wanted a positive tip, so we should get a positive voltage reading of about 5.7 volts. Yep, 5.8 with the positive tip, and obviously if we were to reverse that we should get minus 5.8 volts, so that's good then. Yeah, it used to be negative tip, we've now converted it to positive tip, and it should work. I say should, proof of the pudding's in the eating, so let's get the game, see if it does work. Okie dokie, so here's the game then. No batteries in. Of course it does work from batteries, we were just trying to find a way of helping it to work without having to worry about finding a battery cover for it. So, power socket, nice convincing click there, beautiful. And let's turn this on. I'll just turn the lights off real quick and see if we've got any action here. Oh yeah, there it is. Just turn that back off for a sec. Good stuff. So that's lovely and solid actually on there now. Very nice. Pleased with that. and obviously it goes all the way in without getting caught in the way that these cross multi versions do. Good stuff, happy with that. So let's have a bit of a clean up, quick final reveal, and that'll be the end of that one. So here it is then, Stargate from Entex, the 5th and final game from the recent box I bought from eBay. It didn't need a massive amount doing to it. It was very dirty, to be honest, and covered in paint splashes. The switches were really bad, intermittent, dirty, noisy, and there was quite a lot of damage by plastic migration, sort of scraping as it were to the back of the casing as well. So what did we do? Well, not a great deal, to be honest, really. Just gave it a really decent deep clean and a polish, polished the screen and the casing, cleaned out the switches as best we can and reflowed those. They're not perfect, but they're certainly a lot better than they were and perfectly usable. I also sanded out the plastic marks in the back and polished up the rear casing, so that's tidied it right up. Wasn't able to find a battery cover for it, so we could always use the old duct tape trick, but instead I've modified a new adapter to make this one fit with a 2.5mm tip and sleeve jack plug. So yeah, all in all, she's good to go. So we'll just give it a quick try, and in fact you won't be able to see much from here, so I'll insert some really sort of bad b-roll of me trying to play this game in a second, but suffice it to say that it works. You won't see much in this light, but obviously you won't see anything if I try and film it otherwise. Very difficult to film VFD displays because they work on a slightly odd refresh rate, and camera speeds never seem to sync up with them. So, oh, hello, it's still going. So yeah, you get lots of flashing and stuff like that on the screen, but gives you an idea. But beautiful machine, perfectly usable now, good fun, rare machine for sure, so definitely worth doing. And that's the 5th and the final one. As I say, not a massive amount to this one today, but I wanted to include it in the series just to show you that it's done. Stay tuned because I will do a quick follow-up and 7th and final part to the series, which I'll just review all 5 that came in, what they were like and what they're like now. So do stay tuned for that. Subscribe if not already, please. I think about 3/4 of viewers to the channel aren't subscribed, and we get the same sort of amount of viewers, which is really massively appreciated for those of you that do come back and see what I'm up to. But I'd like to grow the channel, see if we can actually reach out to more people. It'd be fabulous. So yeah, please subscribe, share, like, comment. I love reading your comments. I try to reply to as many as I can, but I'll see you soon. Anyway, you stay safe and all the best for now. Bye bye for now.